Ah, yellow cat. It's looking a little better. It's actually getting a little more comfortable here. So maybe someday I'll be able to comb the crap out of him. Anyway, under Santino, chair, gardening and such. Oh, I'll show you the flowers. Yeah, well, I should actually have them in the background of the video, right? Well, I won't bother. Anyway, same old stuff, really. Just, blah, blah, blah. Gonna rain soon-ish, tomorrow, next day. Anyway, video. Yeah, I haven't made one in a while. Out of practice. So, this whole conversation about this idea that you value through what makes you feel. So if you don't feel anything, then therefore there's no value. And there's all kinds of things in your life where you don't feel like doing something, but you value doing it because, James brought this up. He did a video. It's been a while. And so you do it because you understand the value, not because you immediately feel the value. So, so there's lots of, you could just go on and on with examples of that kind of stuff. But I was thinking about a clone example. If I was to have a duplicate me just be created now, I would understand that, whatever happens to it is the same as happening to me. I mean, it just would be logical to understand that because it's so obvious. It's me, for fuck's sake. So we would have this mutual problem of saying, hey, watch out, don't trip on that. Because we would know we wouldn't want us to get hurt, essentially. And it doesn't take much thought or brains, in my opinion, to figure out that, yeah, the same thing as, regular people. Maybe they're not your clone, but in substance, their brain is doing the same stuff. It's trying to eke out an existence. It's trying to be comfortable. It's trying to do all these things. It has ambitions, blah, blah, blah. And so it's the same game it's playing. And, and if it's in pain, it's not a good thing, just as it's not a good thing when you're in pain. And it's just a fact. It's not a to-them issue. I wouldn't to-them my clone. I wouldn't say it's happening to him and therefore think it's not happening. And this is the only argument you get anymore. I did spend a few minutes in Flyora's room arguing with these nihilists, and that's what they are. I mean, they're denialists, pretending that because value isn't written on things. I've made this point that somehow the universe can't express its opinion, that therefore it doesn't exist. So because the ignorant universe doesn't write on things, this thing has having a value experience. Therefore it doesn't exist because it's not materially written in some language. And that our brain is quite capable of seeing this idea, this concept of value, seeing the constituent of it, which is sentient discomfort. Once you get rid of the threat of substantial negative sensation, there is no threat in the universe. There's no, nothing bad can happen. Yeah, that's exactly the truth. You can't imagine a bad that doesn't involve something bad happening to a thinking, feeling thing. And I suppose the thinking part is important just because thinking things have notions, and those notions make them need or want things to be a certain way. I guess somebody who's like really into color, if I turned everything black and white, for them, oh, that would be a degrade. Oh, yeah. they would endure some kind of pain or suffering because the world turned black and white on them. But that's not really a real bad. It's a bad only because it makes them sad or something. So it's not like, again, that's the danger of this value word, is there is a difference between recognized value and projected value. And I mean, I can keep saying it. There's a difference between recognized value, value that exists, you're recognizing it with your brain, and value you project because your brain, your psychology, is going to be negatively affected by a circumstance. So again, that's why I just keep arguing this philosophical conversation can't include use of subjective emotion as excuse for when it's appropriate to recognize value. You don't recognize it with your emotions, you recognize it with your knowledge. So you can, in a sense, understand that sometimes it's inappropriate to punish bad people because it'll be of no use in terms of creating deterrence, and it'll just create more suffering in the world. Like revenge, you can understand revenge is stupid. You can emotionally want it. You can emotionally think, man, I'm really intuitive with that. I really get that. But you can rationally, intellectually understand that it's just creating more blindness, more negative. Eye for an eye is stupid unless it's creating deterrence. And so that's the difference between philosophy and psychology. And these people, I'll call them people because I'm just not sure, I just don't know how you can be this stupid and be, a high school graduate simian and start arguing about how to-theming something somehow makes it go away. I mean, that's just so juvenile, so immature, so philosophically vacant. And to argue for a meaningful philosophy based on my emotional character, I mean, that's just so silly. The truth is whatever the individual makes it to be. No, there's a truth, and you can either accurately describe it or not. Sounds like a horse coming. Dog one way, horse the other way. It's going to be a hard time to win this one. I want to go for my run. So anyway, so I'll get back to this probably. But yeah, it's just such an unfun argument to have. It's just so fucking stupid. So anyway, till next time. It's me again. Anyway, so continuing. Alright, so that big guy was in Flyora's room. So a lot of people seem to show up for these things, so that's good. Too many, 7 hours though. I need an index or something. But anyway, so I'll play some of it later because they're talking about Sam Harris, and it's just kind of funny because the nihilist says, "Oh yeah, I agree with everything, almost everything he says," and blah blah blah, and then as soon as somebody catches him on it by mentioning the Moral Landscape book, which is probably his boldest and biggest book, forgot my earplugs. Then all of a sudden, not so much disagreement, because in the Moral Landscape, Sam Harris really just talks about the value landscape and the fact that there are real events in the world called suffering, discomfort, unpleasantness. It happens to real people. It's not outside the universe, it happens inside the universe. It's not just a matter of perception, it's a fact that it happens. It's not subject to opinion, really, whether or not it happens. Suffering does in fact happen. Not debatable. My new amendum cage. Keep me locked up. It's the way it should be. It's the way it always should have been. keep the deer out, but technically it'll keep me in, which is good. Do the same routine. This house is outrageously a mess. Yeah, I really gotta work on this place. Okay, anyway. So where were we? So yeah, yeah, so I mean, it's just such a joke. I mean, these people really don't know what they agree with or don't agree with. And they just keep making up this conditional value. Like it's somehow subject to opinion, whether this is a living creature or not, whether it has a brain that feels. It's somehow vague as a fact. It's not at all vague. Its welfare stake is real. As real as mine, and I'm considering mine real. I'm defending the realness of mine. I really don't want you people telling me it doesn't matter what happens to me, because I think that's a pile of crap. No matter what you think of me. The whole idea of this suffering thing is bad. Okay. And the only condition is that somehow you have to you'll endure some suffering to gain relief from a greater suffering later. Take care of your body, then you don't have to be disabled and cruddy in your old age. And that doesn't really work anyway, because you take care of your body and then your back wears out. But anyway, so yeah, I'll play some of him later, just because it's just this worming around all over the place. But yeah, who wants to do that constantly? I mean, I still find it just so obnoxious to call it philosophy, and be in the kindergarten where we're sitting there arguing about the very existence of these negative conditions, and not actually arguing about dealing with them or in some manner accounting for it. No, we have to first establish the existence of it. And that's just too stupid. So I'm glad it's happening somewhere else. I mean, I'm glad I'm not the one having to do that right now, because I'm kind of sick of it. And maybe I won't be sick of it later, but I'm sick of it now. Just as I got sick of arguing with Christians and, they're silly. I mean, it's just so fucking silly, religion. The dumb, ignorant, stupid theory by a bunch of asswipes I wouldn't give the time of day to. I mean, really. I really wouldn't. I don't feel descendant, from the Judeo-Christian Adam. I really don't. They just don't seem like my kind of people. But anyway, that doesn't really matter. And I'm sure black people find the whole thing just, I mean, the fact that they do fall for it and they, become Christians and all that shit, it's just kind of ludicrous, because you're just like, yeah, what, really? You think it works that way, huh? Whitey's God is going to love and care for you. But anyway, that's a separate subject. Yeah, but it has to, I guess the general subject is just, I don't know. I would, you just don't know what people really are. I mean, that's why I think we need a survey of 100 questions that you ask everybody in the world, and just to see what kind of bizarre answers. But they have to be really well engineered, to dissect exactly how stupid people really are. Because do you really have to argue about this kind of crap? Because I think for their own circumstances, they're capable of understanding, this value notion. The joke is they'll, they're also talking as if they're somehow vegetarian. I believe I have this on inside out. I believe I do. And you're almost, and they're defending that, and even enforcing that, imposing that. And you're just like, well, wait, you can't come up with values to understand that torture in humans really exists. Yet you'll somehow concede there's some truth value to statements about animal suffering. And again, if you're just going to say there is no truth, and all you're doing is subjectively agreeing on a lie, well, that doesn't, that's just bullshit. A majority lie you'll impose on the minority? How do you ethically justify that? I mean, you either think you're imposing the correct answer, or you really don't have a right to impose any answer. I mean, again, I've made videos about this confidence issue, but you got to be sure. If you're going to impose on something, you have to be goddamn certain. That's just the way it is. So I mean, and I'm sure people are certain rape is bad. That it's a selfish indulgence that carries no necessity with it. That there's absolutely no excuse to, even if you were a vampire, and you had to rape, like to get blood, but you know what I mean. If you had to rape or die, you still couldn't justify it, because it's not somebody else's responsibility to maintain your existence, and maintaining your existence is not valuable. Survival, it has no value. The thing that has value is your sentient welfare. And so that's again where this equation gets so broken. It's because there's such an obsession with this survival thing, as if that's the game we're playing, is you get to live forever. And it's not. You're going to die anyway. There is no surviving. There's only putting it off. And putting it off really doesn't mean anything in a world where you keep increasing the number of new people every year. Then you might as well just wipe out the old quicker, because the new will be twice as many. Right? Logically. Yes, I got a fence to stop you little bastards now. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so survival is relatively meaningless. It's the game just keeps getting played. It doesn't matter who the players are. It's the gameplay will continue, whether you live for 100 years or 400 years. There's going to be mouths, a certain number of them, and it really doesn't matter who's doing the mouthing and anusing. But certainly to you personally, it can cause you some distress and discomfort, the prospect of dying prematurely or before you're ready, which you will be anyway. So it's worth considering, just because it has some value indirectly, because it causes you distress, because you're concerned with how many years you live. But that's projected value. Again, that's incidental to the real value. But anyway, the point is that the real value is in the amount of harm. So you don't justify harm for profit. You have to justify harm for preventing greater harm. And that's where I'd say Sam Harris goes wrong. And he plays a lot with this thriving word, which I think is just, why talk about your moral landscape, your ability to objectively define some values, and then use a word of such mush as thrive. What is some high maintenance, millionaire, trophy wifey, who pisses through, $2 or $3 million a year on absolute bullshit. Yeah. Is it thriving? Is that thriving worth anything? I'd say not so. But anyway, that's enough. I'll sum it up when I get back, maybe. I'll add some more if I feel like it then. We'll see. Tired. I did test positive for Lyme disease, so back on the penicillin and all that shit. Yeah, 6 times, right? 6. Preposterous. Anyway, till next time. Back. Yeah, so let's play a little bit of this and finish up here. But so we're talking about Sam Harris and the moral landscape.
Perform torturous medical experiments on them to expedite the cure for cancer or something. And right. Sure, people are going to suffer as a result, maybe, but they'll get over it, right? People will be, there'll be backlash for a little while. People will get pissed. But overall, in the long run, that's going to be a lot better than all the suffering that will happen because of cancer. But is that really is that all it really boils down to, is eliminating suffering in the universe? I think there are certain principles.
All right, so he's dealing with these value equations where he says, wouldn't it be horrible if, you compromise some individuals for the greater good or something? And we do that all the time, right? We have drafts for wars and all kinds of stuff where people are obligated to make sacrifices, because it's deemed necessary. And yeah, it should only be done for something big enough, something important enough. Saving the world from Adolf Hitler seems like, yeah, that's okay, that's a good one. Maybe there's some other things that are worth fighting for, dying for.
Like personal.
He's not a negative utilitarian, though. I think he's just kind of like a garden variety utilitarian.
Rather than all the suffering that happens because of cancer. But is that really is that all it really boils down to, is eliminating suffering in the universe?
I'm not going to jump ahead.
I think there are certain principles, like personal.
He's not a negative utilitarian, though. I think it's just kind of
right. So he values this thriving thing, but what does that mean in terms of maybe is a negative utilitarian because maybe he wouldn't impose harm for thriving,
like a garden variety utilitarian.
Right. So I just think when you take that to an extreme like that.
Yeah, see, that's just such an ambiguous statement, right? So show me the negative utilitarian extreme that could it be taken to. The point is that, with a negative utilitarian, you're guaranteed a bigger payoff and harm prevented. So it is going to be sort of an equation where you torture one person now to save 100 people from torture. Obviously, these equations have to be decisively definite. You can't be doing it for risk or that kind of stuff. It has to be a certainty of some kind. Like the certainty of how bad it would be if Adolf Hitler won the war, kind of a thing.
It's just, I don't know. That's why I identify as an ethical pragmatist, where you just kind of got to take these issues on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, duh. It's case-by-case anyway, so that's another bullshit line they keep using. Case by case. Well, who's arguing against case by case? How does that change anything? Yeah, each case has a different amount of evidence, and you're measuring risks of different value. But again, you can certainly know that the risk of letting individuals own bazookas isn't worth it. You can figure that out. You can figure the risk of letting individuals have nuclear power plants in their backyard wouldn't be worth it. So on a case-by-case basis. But there's always case-by-case. These are bullshit arguments.
Just there's no hard and fast rule.
Well, what's your what do you mean there's no hard and fast rule? Oh, you mean there's no real principles? Oh, okay. So the case-by-case means how you feel? Like whether today you're feeling a little horny or not, or whether you had a good breakfast or not should make the decision. The principle shouldn't have anything to do with it. Whether you're cranky or not should decide whether somebody goes to the death penalty or not. Bullshit. You either have a philosophy or you have mush.
I don't know.
Sam Harris actually uses the term flourishing a lot as well, and that's a term.
Yeah, flourishing. That's it. Thrive and flourishing. What a pile of shit word.
That's generally used by eudaimonists or virtue theorists who reject utilitarianism. So it's kind of confusing exactly where he stands.
Well, I don't think it's confusing at all. So, from what my recollections, his stance is pretty clear that, yeah, we can usually figure it out. So whether he uses the word flourishing or not, we know what he means by that generalization in specific circumstances. He's not going to say, again, the flourishing of the wealthy should come at the brutality of the poor.
That's why I said since I think ethical pragmatism kind of like encompasses both utilitarianism and deontology, or consequentialism, and
Yeah, whatever. This is just such. Yeah, it makes up stuff whenever, however we feel like making it up. Might as well just roll dice because yeah, we don't have any. Like again, there's no principles involved. Just some subjective nonsense about how we feel about somebody today, whether we feel generous or not today.
deontology, and I think that's where it needs to be at, because in some cases,
Well, you're stupid and you suck and you're rude and you're obnoxious and you're dumb and not much else to say. This is vague mush. Anyway, till next time. Such.